speaking, Indian massacres do not have survivors. You were there, and you have vital information to offer. Grace, Hope's older sister, brought the coffee pot and poured the man another cup. Mr. Holbrook, a great many women and children survived the massacre. Why must Hope testify? As I understand it, your sister was in the kitchen when the Indians entered and began their attack. She witnessed Marcus Whitman's murder. Few can say the same. We need her testimony to ensure the guilty verdict. Grace was unimpressed. Why should there be any question of their guilt? You've known the identities of the men since we arrived in Oregon City. The victims saw those responsible cut down the men at the mission. They witnessed it firsthand, and their testimony has never wavered. Furthermore, as I understand it, Tolokite and Tomahas have boasted of their deeds. They take full credit for ridding their people of Dr. Whitman. Yes, they did, but that isn't the case now. They deny any participation. They're entering a plea of not guilty and are hoping for a complete acquittal. Hope studied the stranger. Amory Holbrook had been appointed by the President to be the United States Attorney for the Oregon Territory. He would prosecute the Cayuse. He was young, perhaps too young for the job he held. Hope had her doubts about his abilities. She didn't like him, but couldn't exactly say why. It might only be what he represented. On the other hand, she found the beard that edged his jawline and barely covered the end of his chin annoying. He was otherwise clean-shaven. It was a look Hope had never cared for. Miss Flanagan, I know this is difficult. He'd said it again. Hope gritted her teeth and tightened her hold on her skirt. She could barely force out her words. You know nothing. You weren't there, and you can't possibly understand, no matter how many people tell you the story or give you the ugly details. You will never know what your request is costing me. Of course, you're right, and I did not mean to imply a first-hand knowledge of events. However, I do understand that the event described to me by other witnesses was a heinous, unforgivable act of indecency, and I want to see those men hang for what they did. Hope drew in a deep breath to calm her spirit. So do I. The trial will hopefully conclude in that. However, some feel a goodwill gesture might be called for. A goodwill gesture? Grace asked. Holbrook nodded. There has been talk that pardoning the Indians would show the various tribes that the white man understands their plight and concerns and forgives what happened because of them. However, I do not adhere to that thought. It would be one thing if they had committed a single murder. Perhaps even multiple murders might be overlooked, but what they did in taking helpless women and children hostage is unforgivable. I believe we need to send a much stronger message to these Indian nations. In hanging those guilty of murdering Dr. Whitman and the others, we put it in clear, unquestionable terms. If you continue to harm the settlers, we will prosecute you and punish you to the full extent of the law. He paused for a moment. The entire United States is watching to see how we deal with the Cayuse. And not only the whites, but the Indians as well. They are waiting to see if we pardon the murderers. Mark my words, it will spell disaster if we do. Hope had never once considered that anyone would think it reasonable to pardon murderers. The very idea of Tomahas, the Cayuse who had killed the man she loved, taken her virtue, and left her to bear his unwanted child, walking the streets as a free man, left her sick inside.